You're listening to Reza Riffs with Keith Reza and Alan Lee, right here on LA Talk Radio.
We're gonna let this Zack in.
Hello.
Hey Zack, how are you?
Hey guys. Hey Keith. Hey Alan. How you doing?
Doing good, Zack Ward.
This is Aris.
Hey Aris, how are you?
Hi.
Keith,
How
and
are
that
you?
is Alan. Nice to meet you, gentlemen. What's going on, guys?
Not much.
Not too much.
Before we start, do people ever say your first and last name when they're talking to you?
Yeah. Usually, if I'm going to be served a subpoena or something, yeah. On occasion, they do, and it's a little intimidating. You literally feel like you're going to go to jail. It's the weirdest thing.
Well, that's Alan Lee's the trusty sidekick. So,
Well, as trusty as a guy can be, I don't even think Tonto was that trusty, to tell you the truth.
well, let's start with
Just joking.
yeah. Let's start with Iris, because from what I understand, you're 16 years old and you just directed, or you're about to direct, this feature movie. So how's that transition? Like, what made you get in the business like that?
First off, her name is Aris, Aris.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and last name is Underhill, Underhill.
Underhill.
She
right.
is the daughter of my business partner, Ace Underhill. Ace is the creator of Brilliant Screen Studios. That is the studio that we run together here in Los Angeles, with 4 stages, a bunch of trucks,
Nice.
all the camera equipment, everything needed to make a movie from soup to nuts, including a post house. So we do
Nice.
small projects, $1 million and under, and we do films that are in the $30 to $100 million price range, where they come over from Warner Brothers to do pickup shots. So that gives you a background. We're just in the writer's room right now, hence the bland background, because it's a blank slate, so all our genius can spread across the walls.
Very nice.
That being said, Aris, take it away.
Hi, Iris.
Hi, Aris.
Can you ask that question?
So the question is so you're about to start directing your first feature project, and you're 16. What made you jump into this business at such a young age, and to jump in the director's chair?
Well, I've always wanted to do film ever since I was little, and I would go on sets with my dad. It's just been something that has stuck with me, and I've been making my own shorts and directing since I was like 10. So it's just, I'm ready to do it, and I'm
All right.
excited.
So what's this? Can you guys talk about what this film project you guys are doing? Like, is it horror film?
Suspense, thriller, horror, and it's the title right now is
Angels of the Apocalypse.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a cool title.
yeah.
So
It's two girls, and they are abducted by a doomsday prepper, and they have to use their bravery and intelligence to escape.
oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
And is Zach one of the girls?
Are you flirting with me, buddy? I've got a wife, brother. I've got a wife.
Oh my
Thank you very
God.
much. I appreciate
Oh my God, Keith. Keith.
No, so like, what was the like? Did you write the script as well?
We're doing that
Yes.
now. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that's awesome. That's cool.
It is a
So
story. It is a story based on true events.
Oh,
So we pulled from that, and then we've been building out the story. And yeah, we're in the process of writing the script.
how long does it take you guys to write a script like that? Because you're about to shoot at the end of the month, right?
Yeah. This one, I think we're going to be done in the next 10 days
Nice.
with our first pass, what we lovingly call a puke pass. And then we go into the scalpel process of
nice.
cutting it up and getting very specific as to what needs to be streamlined, so that she can also then put her director's eye on it and start figuring out what the shots are going to be, which she's already been doing the entire time, actually, which has been great.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm like very impressed how young you are and how you're just jumping into it. I think that that's really cool.
I want to be clear. She's not just jumping into it. I've known this booger head since she was knee high to a grasshopper, and ever since she's been on sets. She's
Oh,
been she's been working on sets. Let's be clear. She was working in craft service or being a PA or basically being an assistant to the makeup department or hair department or a grip department and cleaning out the trucks and painting the floors and washing the cars and doing all the work that nobody cares to do. It isn't funny. It's straight up grunt labor.
oh
Uh,
yeah, definitely.
when she's here at the studio, she's working with the stunt gear, falling off the building. That was a scary one.
You fell
Just
off a building?
fearless. Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
it-
she was doing the also the silks. When you were working on the silks,
Yes.
we have a full stunt truss on stage one, so we do a whole bunch of flying of sort of like Matrix action scenes and stunt gear. We fly people all the time. So Aris was over there using the silks, which are the long silk
Aerials.
aerials. Thank you.
Mhm.
And then she was learning how to do that stuff. I tried it and almost choked myself out, but every time she's here, it's not like I look, it's gonna happen no matter what, is that people go, "Oh, you're a Nepo baby." And it's like, screw you. She earned it. This kid has been painting floors, washing cars, doing work that is disgusting, cleaning out the toilets, making sure that she earned her place.
yeah,
And it's a great opportunity for a young person to step in front of behind the camera and take the lead. She's been working towards this for years now, even on her short films. Like she'll do stuff, and I'll look at what she's doing in Premiere Pro, and I'll be like, "That's good." But you can do a post move in to emulate like a Fincher dolly push, and you can do it with this keyframing in Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve. And she'll like, okay, and she'll try it.
yeah. That's
She
awesome.
Well, that's the job, right? Like the thing about filmmaking is no one person does everything. Your goal is to understand as much as you can so that you can communicate better with your team and then lead them.
Yeah,
Our job here is with Eris is to get this script up and running in a way that can be shot for the budget that we have for it. And then as we've developed it together and written it together, she then takes lead on what the filming values will be, the style of it's going to be, and really develops and pulls that out. And then our job is always like, well, okay, we can do that shot, we can do that. I'm not sure how we can afford this, and she's got to find out an alternative because that's
yeah.
always the thing in a film, man. Is you've got an idea, you've got a vision, and you can't afford it. So
Oh yeah,
figure out how to make it work, bro. Like that is
definitely.
the job, Don't take no as an answer. Take can't do it that way. So find an alternative.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'm very proud of her. I have a lot of respect for her. I also like to give her endless amount of shit on a daily basis, just because why shouldn't I? I'm the lovable asshole uncle. That's kind of my
right.
job, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think that that's cool. Like, cause that's how I started in stand up is I was Norm Macdonald's assistant. And then
Ah,
and then I started becoming his opener. So like I kind of know the job of assistant and I know that's very painful. You know what I mean? Like no one respects it.
right,
So
right.
yeah. But I want to hear more about the story about you jumping off a building. Like I think that that's cool.
I was trying to shoot my stunt reel, so I wrote a script and then we filmed it, and I wrote in that I got to jump off a building, so that's what we did.
Now, when you wrote it, did you think, okay, this is cool? And then when you actually shot it, did you like have the thoughts like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore? Or did you just do it?
I was ready to do it. I've been
Oh,
practicing falls for like a year before that, so I was pretty ready.
oh,
Her dad is a stunt
Oh,
coordinator as
no.
well. So he's been getting her up to speed, literally foot by foot by foot, how to do the falls and how to tuck your neck and roll your back and not hurt yourself. And for
yeah,
anybody who's out there who wants to do this type of thing, start small.
yeah,
Like start as low
One
as
step at a
possible.
time.
Yeah, literally, like you could actually stay just from standing and fall and practice
That's
not
right.
biting off your tongue, hurting your neck, and hurting your back. That's a good beginning.
Well,
Jujitsu is really.
A lot of people don't realize, but stunning is like a really dangerous job too, even like the most simple stunts. So it's like, so I think that's awesome, man. And so how many days do you think this is going to take you guys to film this project?
8 to 12 tops. And
Yeah.
we're gonna have a couple of different locations. So it may be a couple over at the studio, some on exterior locations, and then we also have an LED wall volume, so we can shoot plates, put it up on the LED wall, and then we're out in the middle of nowhere, and there's a bathroom right next to you. So it's great.
Interesting.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, so after you film it, how long does it take to get the final product on like I don't know if you guys are going to release this theatrically or streaming or like how is that process going to take?
Well, finishing up the film in post, I mean, it depends upon our VFX because I don't think we're going to be very VFX heavy. It's mostly practical, and you're going to be editing most of it, at least the first and second pass. I think it'll probably be a couple of months to 2 to 3 months, yeah, to finish it all off and have it polished, where we can then really dig in if we need to make any changes. When it
Uh,
comes to distribution, we don't have any distro attached yet, but we're okay with that.
yeah.
I
Well, if I
honestly think, like, 16-year-old female director movie going to film festivals is not a bad story.
Oh no, that's an awesome story. That and like when you go to these film festivals, that's where a lot of people like will say, "Oh, hey, we want to give you money for it and help you distribute it too." So, I think
Well, if
that's awesome.
anybody's listening out there, they can give her money now. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
I will allow that. I will
Uh,
allow you to just throw money at Aris anytime you like. That's okay. You good
do
with
you,
that?
yeah, do you have a Venmo you want to plug?
Oh,
Yeah. Well, I'll send you the link later on.
Oh, okay. Awesome. We'll do that. So, well, congratulations. I think that's awesome. And I'm glad that you're living your dream come true. And
very good.
I'm glad you have Uncle Zach with you because,
Yeah.
Zach started your age too. So I think that that's cool that, you have that bond too.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
You're a dick.
So, well, awesome. All right. Is there anything else you guys can tell us about this? Like the process that you want to do?
Talk about it.
I just think it's a good story, and coming from true events, I think it's important to get out the message that girls should be aware that trafficking and abduction is a thing out there, and it can come in any different angle, and it can come in disguise, and you should just be aware of that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think it's really scary about trafficking because I wrote a documentary with my script writing teacher, and we had to do like these research about trafficking, and then we found out that in certain countries they use other kids to bait other kids, and it's
Wow.
very, very sad and disturbing. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's weird when we were talking about this because I did a movie about the child sex trafficking environment called Trade with Kevin Kline,
Yeah.
and that actually premiered at the United Nations building, and Sigourney
Wow.
Weaver was the MC. Fantastic movie, really proud of it. And the problem is, if you make something too dark and sad, nobody wants to watch it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So you got to make a film that can appease an audience that you can't be just yelling and screaming a message at people. You got to give them some entertainment along the way, and then have the message be something that they walk away and discuss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you're just preaching to the choir, and it's kind of masturbatory and self-indulgent. So that's the thing that we've been working on, is making a script that has a message, but at the same time you can have a good time watching the movie, as opposed to you're supposed to feel bad about it. So
Yeah.
it's walking that line of making it entertainment so that it can actually get an audience, and then adding that message to it.
That's awesome. I think, and I also think like the stories like that are what we need in this world because I also feel a lot of people are very uneducated about certain subjects like trafficking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
So, Alan, you got any questions?
No, I think it's great that starting out like that, she's involved in a project already and has some great support. But you're diving in. I wish I dove in a little earlier myself. So that's
Yeah.
good. That's a great thing. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I wish I had been directing and writing when I was 16 as opposed to waiting till I was in my mid 40s. Yeah.
Now, Zach, I wanted to. I only have one Christmas story question, and I know that that's a big part of your life, so you probably get hounded a lot by
Sure.
that.
Yeah, of
So,
course, man.
yeah, but I wanted to ask you, do you still have your hat?
The
Oh,
original hat is in the museum in
oh,
England. I have a different hat that is hold on a second. Wait. Ace is actually
Oh, hey,
that's the proud papa. Now look at
ah,
that.
how are you?
Uh,
right.
that I have a different hat that was made by a friend of mine in Toronto out of recycled antique fox fur.
Hmm.
And I wore it in the new movie A Christmas Story Christmas. So I do have that hat, which is pretty
Wow,
awesome.
that's awesome. I thought too, A Christmas Story Christmas is like, I thought that it was just as good as the original one, and it's also for like a total different audience. So I think A Christmas Story is going to live forever because you have that one and now this one. You know what I mean?
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. It was a scary process to go do a movie that was following in the footsteps of such a legend. Like we had opportunities over the years, and a lot of them were just shitty scripts. Um, and so we were all nervous because that's the thing is if it failed, the audience would blame us.
Yeah.
So that was very it was risky, but once the script started being delivered, it came together in a way that it had enough pain and honesty to connect to the universe of Gene Shepard so that it felt like it was crafted by the same hands, and that was really really important.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I meet people who've seen the film, like, I didn't want to watch it. I was scared. I was nervous it was gonna suck. And I'm like, yeah, me too. And then they're like, oh, but I liked it so much and we're so happy about it. So thank you
Well,
very much. I appreciate that.
well, it kind of has like that Cobra Kai feeling where, like, 20 years later, people still love these characters. So that's what I really loved about it.
Well, I am lovable. That is true.
You are.
Yeah,
And
sure.
definitely. And then I wanted to ask you about Titus, which is Christopher Titus is one of my best friends. I open up for him every now and then.
What do you really? I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. Are you
Yeah.
okay? Do you need a therapy for that?
Well, I was gonna ask if you have any slots open, but I wanted to know what was that like because I think he's just too much of a genius, and I think that was the funniest show too. So like, what was that like working for that?
Oh, that was so cool, dude. Doing live comedy. Uh yeah, you weren't even born, dude. Um
You gotta watch it. It's hysterical.
It was fun. I mean, they don't do live comedies anymore, so we would literally do the show live in front of 500 people, and so you have a real live audience there. So they're interacting with you as you do the lines, and the difference is, and I've always tried to explain this to people, and you get it, Keith, which is like live performance. Okay, you've been to the ocean, right? Like you stood in the water and you can feel the waves going around your legs, right? And you could close your eyes and you could feel the ebb and flow of the ocean. Well, the same thing happens with an audience. When you're standing there and you're doing a scene, you're locked in and you're really killing it, you can feel the audience waiting on your next line,
Mhm.
anticipating the comedy, excited by it, and you feel that energy. I swear to God, dude, you feel like it's like the water at the beach. You know what I mean, Keith,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
It's so cool. And I was not a stand up before I did Titus. I did stand up afterwards, but doing that show was amazing. It was such an incredible experience. Not only as an actor and getting to play the adorably sweet and kind of mentally challenged Dave, idiot savant, but the writers were fantastic.
yeah.
And it was such a great education for writing, which I've actually used to help out Aris. Um,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, it's like you pass it forward so someone can be better than you is the goal, right? Yeah, working on Titus was fantastic. Christopher and I are still good friends. Um, he's still a jackass, and I still love him. I mean, we get along really great. Like every time we see each other, it's the comedy beats are going right back to where they were. It's fantastic.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, like, how was it doing because Titus did like a final episode a couple years ago during the
Yeah,
pandemic. So how was that like?
that was cool. I'm glad we got to do it. I was pretty fat back then. I was drinking too much. That was before I stopped drinking. And so you see the close-ups on it. I'm like, I got this bloated face. Yeah. Yeah. It's those moments where you're like, yeah, alcohol's not my friend. So,
Yeah.
and I'm vain and I don't want to look like a tick about to burst. So, yeah, that was awesome. And the fact that we got to bring in Stacy Keach the way that we did, even during COVID, with him up on the iPad,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah, that was an idea I pitched to Christopher, and it was so funny because I pitched this idea because Stacy, like we were shooting this thing during COVID, and Stacy Keach is like
He,
75,
he's a
and
legend too.
yeah, and so he played our dad, and so we needed him in the show, but he wasn't going to be leaving his house to be around people because everybody was scared, right? So I had this idea, like, what if he was on an iPad, and how would we mount that if I had it mounted behind me? And I had that idea because in the movie Alien Covenant, do you remember that?
I don't, but I'm sure there's a movie called that.
There is Alien Covenant. They had these backpacks that had these little GoPro cameras on them. And I remember noticing them because they looked stupid, and the fact that you'd be 100 years in the future and still have a GoPro Black 6 up there is the tech nerd in me was like, that doesn't make any sense. But I thought about that rig, and I'm like, well, what if Dave has like an iPad stuck up here that is connected to his dad, who's in a jail or something like that somewhere else. That way, we could get Stacy onto the set without him actually being there. And of course, when I first pitched that, Chris was like, "That's stupid. You're an idiot." And then about 2 days later, he's like, "You know what? I was thinking about it more. That's actually a really good idea." I'm like, "Thank you, asshole." Um, but that's the Titus process, you know.
Yeah.
2 + 2 = 4. Shut up, Zach. You don't know. And then 2 days later, hey, I had an idea. Two
Uh,
plus two might equal 4. And you're like, okay. Um, yeah, it was pretty awesome to be able to do that and finish off the show. I mean, that was a hell of a show to do. And if anybody is ever blessed with the opportunity to get paid to be funny and adorable,
yeah.
take it because it is the best time. It is so much fun. Yeah.
Definitely. And it's also cool because, I didn't know you could use a movie trick like that, like on an iPad for, future stuff. So I think that's pretty cool that you came up with it. And
Thank you.
then Titus pulled the whole, hey.
Hey, I got an idea. Okay.
Oh man. So for your future projects, what kind of stuff would you like to film in your as you're going on, because now you're doing a thrillery, or what's your next project you want to do?
Well, we got a movie. Are you talking to me or Aris?
Aris, I'm sorry, Aris.
We have a horror we've been talking about for a while.
Yeah, you can say that.
Ghost Train. That's our concept pretty much.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm really into horrors. I've done a lot of like comedy sketches, but I really want to be into horror. So.
Well, that's interesting that you said horror because Zach, I have a couple questions about horror for you because I know you write a lot of horror films.
Yes.
Yeah. So what gave you the inspiration to write horror films?
I've always loved horror films. Actually, I'll show you something. So stupid. All right. Do you recognize this guy?
Uh
Uh,
Not really. Alan, do you?
No, I should. I collect every action figure on Earth and odd ones.
This
You
is
see,
the
that's Birdman.
this is the no, this is the monsters
No.
from Don't Be Afraid of the Dark.
Oh,
The original 1973 movie of
Oh,
the week.
wow.
Yeah,
You know, the
I found it on
feathers.
Etsy. It was awesome. I've loved horror since I was a kid,
No.
and I'm not a fan of torture porn. I've always loved the horror that's more Sam Raimi, Evil Dead, um,
Yeah,
like Phantom of the Paradise
sure. Oh,
stuff.
classic.
Come
Yeah.
on, dude. If I show you this movie, Aris, you'd be like, you old people are crazy. Like you will, it is nuts. But I like that type of stuff. It's fun and it covers the range of the gamut of human emotion, whether
Mhm.
it's desire, passion, fear, pain, drama. All that type of experience goes into it as well as comedy. So I feel like you have the ability to play all the different angles you want, like Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
I love Freddy Krueger. The fact that I got to be Freddy Krueger in Freddy versus Jason is freaking huge. I'm one of the best honors of my life. I love horror. Getting into horror is a pro and a con because it's the lowest hanging fruit for
Yeah.
people to make a horror movie. They think they can do it and they usually suck. Um, and so there's a lot of it out there, but when it's good,
It's
it's
really
iconic.
good.
Yeah, when it's good, it's great. And I think Eris is going to do fantastically at it because the mistakes that I've made in the films that I've written or the films that I've directed as a horror that are horror, I know where I screwed up.
Yeah.
My first film that I directed was called Restoration, and it's a good movie. I'm very proud of it. At the same time, there's things that I'd be like, that wasn't as clear as it should be, and I could have made this better. Um, and I can take those lessons and as a producer help her elevate her directing so that she doesn't have to deal with the same horse crap I did. You know,
Yeah.
but I love horror. And actually, here's a funny one. If you get to see the movie Restoration, it's on Amazon. Um, and obviously it's not the one with Robert Downey Jr. It's mine. So
Right.
I wrote, directed, and acted in it and edited it. And my mom is in it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, my mom's in it. She kicks ass, dude. She's awesome.
Ah, I saw Bethany and I really liked that one because I thought that it was a different side of you and Tom Green.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, James Cullen Bressick and I wrote both those scripts and then produced both of those. And I directed Restoration. He directed Bethany.
Oh, nice. So that's cool, man. And because like I know like horror films too, because I take script writing classes, and my script teacher always says, "Hey, the easiest scripts to sell are romantic comedy and horrors because they'll just give you money, and it doesn't matter if they film it or not because they're so
I don't
cheap
know
to
about
make."
that.
Oh, really?
I would say from what I've heard, obviously I'm young and I
Yeah.
don't know that much, but horrors I've been told they sell more because it's like a universal language to be scared. You know, you
Yeah.
don't have to understand what people are
Oh,
saying. You just feel scared, so it does better
sure.
overseas.
Yep. Yeah, that sells well. Action sells well. Talking dog or animal films sell well.
Mhm.
Sci-fi sells well. Romantic comedies, any type of comedy is hard to sell
Mhm.
Yeah.
because it'll have a limited audience based upon the language.
Mhm.
There was years ago, there was a movie with Chris Rock and Anthony Hopkins, and it was like
Oh, it was Bad Reputation or something, right?
something
Or
like that. And
yeah.
he plays Chris Rock plays a
S-
hood guy who's turning into a secret agent. And I'm watching this movie in Calgary, Alberta, and we're shooting a western out there. And I'm in the theater, and there's nobody else in the theater except in front of me by about four rows of seats, two dudes, a white dude and a black dude. And here's why it's relevant. Because Chris Rock, as a black man, is being trained how to know about wines to be sort of like James Bondy, elegant and classy, right? And so they're explaining something to him about the wine. He's like, "Oh, right," and then he pours the wine out on the ground, which in American culture is like, this is for my homies, right? So I'm like, however, the guy in front of me, the black dude who's sitting in the rows ahead of me, turns to the white guy, goes, "Why did he pour out the wine?"
Yeah.
And my point of that is the cultural dynamic with black culture in the United States being having created a familiarity with the idea like I'm going to pour out some of this from my homies didn't even translate to Canada.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
less than 1,000 miles away, nobody knew what they were talking about. So when you start saying a joke,
Mhm.
how does that relate in Japanese, German, Italian, Saudi Arabian, all these other countries that don't know your references or
Mhm.
even don't know your syntax?
True.
And all of a sudden they're like, okay, I guess that's funny, which is why things that are silly, like Benny Hill, which you wouldn't know, or Mr. Bean. Have you ever heard of Mr. Bean? No, it's fine.
I think she
Anything that
has. Mr. Bean's pretty big.
probably hasn't, but anything with broad physical comedy translates really well because anybody can get it. You
Yeah.
sit on a thumbtack or like Warner Brothers cartoons, right?
That's right.
A Wile E. Coyote gets an anvil on his head. Every 6-year-old kid will be like, blah. That's what they say. They say blah. Yeah.
Zach, I wanted to ask you, since you brought up Canada, because I know you're Canadian, and I wanted to ask you, why do you think, because I think Canadian humor is the funniest type of humor, because it's so,
In fact,
so I wanted to know, why do you think Canadians are so funny and Americans are not?
one of
Oh,
my
no.
favorites, SCTV.
Oh,
Yeah,
dude.
SCTV. Oh my
Oh.
God.
Boy,
I
that's
was
such an
on
amazing
SCTV.
show.
Oh, you were?
I
How
was
was
on
that?
SCTV when I was a little
Oh,
kid. So there was an episode, and you have no idea what we're talking about, right?
It's this
Okay.
Canadian Saturday Night Live. Kind
Yeah.
of.
Oh, it was brilliant. So there was an episode where they were electing the new mayor of Mellonville, and it was John Candy, Eugene Levy, Joe Flaherty, Rick Moranis. They were all running for the mayor of Mellonville. Now these guys are all comedy legends, Aris.
Yeah.
No, but they're legends. You might have heard of Eugene Levy from Schitt's Creek. You heard of Schitt's
Am-
Creek?
American Pie. He played Jim's dad.
That might be a little old for her, buddy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, it's okay. I mean, yeah. So, anyways, so then they're on SCTV. They're all running for mayor of Mellonville, and they got to give their speeches in this high school auditorium, and there was like an audience of 10 Boy Scouts,
Ah,
and I was one of the Boy Scouts.
that's
Like
awesome.
10, right? Which, I mean, it's like working with
that's wow.
when you're a little kid. It was freaking awesome.
Oh,
Yeah, they were the best, dude. They were.
Weren't
I think
they?
the difference is you'll even when it gets down to the details, and you'll notice this, Keith. I mean, and here's the question, Alan, are you a comedy writer? I'm sorry, I don't know.
I am a comedy freak as far as sitcoms, stand up, but comedy films, I love comedy.
Okay, so you'll get this totally. In American situation comedies, very specifically, they'll say blah 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 blah
Yeah,
punchline.
yeah, that's right.
In English comedy, like in England and Britain, they'll be like blah 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 punchline, blah blah blah,
That's right.
and
That's
then
right.
it'll be a laugh and a continuation.
That's right.
So the interesting thing, like structurally for Canadian comedy, is it's usually self-deprecating.
Mm-hmm.
American comedy is like, oh, Aris, blah blah blah. I say something crappy about you,
Mhm.
punchline,
That's right.
and then you go what, and the audience laughs at you.
That's right.
Canadian comedy, English comedy is much more. You say something, and then I realize that I'm in trouble, so I pretend that I'm better than that, and I don't know what's going on.
That's right.
I.e., Ricky Gervais,
Monty
yeah.
Python, even.
right? Yeah, Canadian comedy, self-deprecating. I make
Yes,
myself.
that's right.
So, and I belittle myself, and I make myself the joke, so it's okay to laugh
That's right.
at and with me.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it's because Canada is situated between these two comic giants. I think America, you cannot disrespect the incredible contributions of comedy from the United States. Going back to Carlin, going back to Richard Pryor, you have a history of brilliant fucking comedic geniuses that have set the stage and changed comedy around the world. And at the same time, you've got England with John Cleese and Monty
Mhm.
Python
Mhm.
and all these fantastic comedians that came out of such a restricted country.
That's right.
England is very uptight. So that's why
And,
their silliness was a
That's
way
right.
to vent for them. So I think where Canada was situated perfectly to blend those two cultures in
That's right.
television and news, and it helped us find our own sense of
That's
funny.
right.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a good answer, and that answer makes everything makes more sense because, like, I mean, I like I said, I love Canadian humor more than
I
any
do
other
too.
type of humor.
Well, I teach a course on the weekend, so again,
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, out of all the directors that you've worked with, which is the one director that gives you the most trust that you could do with a character?
um, they're different processes. I would say it would be Bob Clark from Christmas Story, and then Cameron Crowe from
Yeah,
Almost Famous.
yeah.
I was a little kid on Christmas Story, and Bob was incredibly patient. It was my first film, and I wasn't what I would call really a professional, like the way I am now. Um, but my mother's an actress, so I knew I needed to be professional, but I was a kid. And Bob had the patience to walk me through my problems and get me to where I needed to be without being angry or rude. And I'll be honest with you, back in the day, it was very typical for directors to scream and swear at people.
Yeah.
Uh, and Bob was an incredible guiding light in my life as not only a director, but a mentor and a very kind man. When it came to other styles of directing, Cameron Crowe, when I did Almost Famous, I mean, the whole process was improvised. All of it was like there's a little bit of dialogue off the page,
Mhm.
and then he wanted to keep on riffing, and he was walking around
Mhm.
with the camera, and he'd ask other questions, and I just have to go off the top of my head in character, and he really taught me a lot about how well a director can
Mhm.
handle a large set with a level of elegance
Mhm.
and kindness and respect without ever coming off weak.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
and Michael Bay, Michael Bay, Transformers, $150 million movie, massive freaking team, incredible pyrotechnics, stunts, and all this stuff. Um, Not a warm and fuzzy guy.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't think he'd be offended by me saying that. I have mad respect for him. If I saw him again, he'd probably say, "Who the hell are you?"
Yeah.
But you know, he's a legend of his own making. So there you go. But yeah,
Uh,
I'd say Cameron Crowe and Bob Clark.
I wanted to ask you about Transformers because I tour with TJ Miller right now, and he was in one of the Transformers movies, and he tells me all the time no one remembers Transformers, even though it like makes all this money and stuff. So like,
Yeah,
do you feel like that's the same?
yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I absolutely do, dude. I raise money for charities around the country every single year. And A Christmas Story was made for roughly $4 million, and it was a passion project by Bob Clark and Gene Shepard. And families watch it every single year, and I sign autographs for it, and there's all that stuff. And Transformers did $1.3 billion, the first one, in revenue. Huge, huge at the time. I know we're used to that now, but this would be prior to the Avengers, dude.
Yeah.
So 1.3 was fucking ginormous. Nobody wants an autograph from Transformers. Nobody's like, oh my God, every Christmas we watch Transformers together. No one gives a shit. Uh, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I think the studios have accomplished that on purpose because uh who like the latest Transformers, Beast Wars or something.
I didn't even see it.
I
Yeah.
saw it on a plane and I wanted my money back. Um, but the point is, like, you don't know who's in it.
Yeah.
You have no idea who's in the film because they don't matter. It's just the intellectual property rights that matter. And I think the studio is doing that on purpose so that the actors are not of value. It's just the characters that they own. If that makes
Yeah,
sense. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
We,
So
we,
Transformers for me was an amazing experience. I loved it. I'm grateful for it. It was a lot of fun. It was scary. Um, I did these stunts that had me jacked up and flying 40 feet up in the air, propelled by a pneumatic cannon and surrounded by exploding cable. So pretty terrifying,
Yeah.
but also awesome. Yeah, and nobody cares.
Definitely. Well, we lost Alan Lee. I think his laptop froze or something. But
No.
I have two more questions. This question is for both of you guys,
Okay.
and you could answer it in whatever order. But if you could go into a time machine and talk to a younger version of yourself, it could be from yesterday or 2 years ago or whatever,
Ooh.
and tell yourself what you know now, what would you tell yourself?
I don't know. I don't know. That's a really good question. Invest in Apple.
Yeah.
I don't know. Buy real estate in the 70s. I would say learn how to write at a young age. What else? I mean, you're too young. God, what would you do? Go back to yesterday?
Yeah. Well, what would you
Go
say?
back to yesterday and listen to Uncle Zach? You jerk.
Continue working hard.
Nah, that's not good enough. That's not helpful. You want to get ahead. I mean, honestly, Aris is kind of killing it because at 16, she's been on sets off and on since you were 5, I think. One, actually, 18
Really,
months old.
since I was
Yeah.
in the womb.
You were in utero.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think she's actually her timeline, she's kind of killing it. For myself, um, I would go back and I would make I don't know, man.
Oh, it's a tough question, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, I do have one. I do have one.
Okay.
Would say the one thing I could change would be that I never became a drinker. If
Yeah.
I could go back and talk to a younger self and be like, look, pumpkin head, I know you get scared. I know you're intimidated by people sometimes, and that's okay. It's better to uh, feel intimidated and face it with your eyes wide open than to get some courage out of a glass and lose yourself.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I made I lost time and good decisions to getting caught up in the matrix of alcohol. And look, I don't pontificate about this. I don't tell people how to live their lives. My wife can still have a glass of wine or two at dinner and it doesn't affect her. She's fine. Me, I was a dumb shit. So
Yeah. Well,
I can change anything. Yeah.
my mom was an alcoholic. She's 3 years sober now, and
Right.
I just cannot even touch alcohol because I remember how much of a demon she had. So like, it's not something I'm into. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I'm 2.5
Mm,
years sober and I don't miss it at all. And it's so funny because you think about this, like when you're a little kid, you don't go out drinking when you're 8 years old and you have a great time and
yeah.
you play and you're having fun. And I think it's only when you start thinking that that's what you need that's when you start doing it. But the reality is, you got it inside you already. I think if I could go back and change anything, it would be that one thing. I
Yeah.
give the young little ginger boy a hug and go, "Don't worry about it so much, Pumpkin." You
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad you said that and you didn't say, okay, Zach, don't do Keith Reza's podcast.
know?
So the last question I had is can you talk about right now Darkness of Men or not really?
Darkness of Men with Jean-Claude Van Damme,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool because as a kid, Jean-Claude Van Damme was one of my heroes. He was called the Muscles from Brussels.
He was in Street Fighter.
Yeah, which not his best movie, but he had some cool ones. My mom actually did a movie with him up in Vancouver. I think is when he played twins, double impact, I think
Yeah.
it was called. And my mom's in that. So I've gotten to work with Jean-Claude Van Damme, Bruce Willis, and Steven Seagal. Um, it's kind of fun. It's neat to work with your childhood heroes who are action stars. Jean-Claude is still a badass, and he and I go toe to toe at certain moments in this film. I guess you'll have to find out who wins.
Oh, that'll be awesome. Well, where can the folks at home find and support you guys at?
You can go to Total Zack Ward, TOTALZACKWARD. That's on Instagram or Twitter. And Aris is
Aris Underhill.
ARIS Underhill. And you can go to Brilliant Screen Studios Ace, is it Brilliant Screen Studios or Brilliant Screen? It's brilliantscreen.com, and our Instagram. What's the Instagram, buddy? And the Instagram is Brilliant Screen. Apparently, I'm a genius. Yes.
Ah, awesome.
So yeah, come check out all the stuff because we're going to do a whole bunch of BTS on our studio site, my site, her site, so you can watch the 16-year-old prodigy make her first movie. Yeah.
Ah, it's gonna be awesome. Well, Alan Lee just texted me and he told me to say thank you, Zach.
Thank you,
So,
Alan.
guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day on a Sunday to talk with me and us, and it means a lot to me. So, thank you.
Pleasure, Keith. Let us know if you need anything, and once we're done with the movie and we got something to show you, we'll reach out.
Yeah, come back. We would love to have that.
That'd
All
be
right.
awesome.
All right, guys. Well, have a good day. Enjoy Sunday football or whatever you guys are into, and I love you guys both.
All right. Thank you much, sir. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. All right, guys. That was the episode. Subscribe, rate, review, and we'll see you guys next week.
Cool.
You're listening to Reza Riffs with Keith Reza and Alan Lee, right here on LA Talk Radio.